Natalie Bennett visited Sunderland's National Glass Centre to give a speech on the climate crisis. She spoke to SR News about climate change, why it's important for the UK government to step up, and how the change can benefit the UK economy financially.
Well, I think because we've got the Paris climate talks on now, and the world really is waking up to the need for action, the fact we've got the Pope, Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, even the head of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, saying when she was asked what keeps her awake at night, she said we're not doing enough about climate change. So the fact is it's really clear we're at a turning point globally. And what we're actually seeing is, particularly in terms of renewable energy and energy conservation, other countries like China, the US, Germany, are really powering ahead with renewable energy, powering ahead with moving to a low-carbon economy. But what we're actually finding in Britain is we're really being left behind. We've had a government that's made a whole series of policy decisions that have really pulled the rug out from underneath small businesses, solar installers, local communities that were planning to set up community energy schemes. So really, a lot of the rest of the world is making great strides on tackling climate change. And sadly, that's not the case in Britain.
Okay. So why do you think it's so important then?
Well, this is obviously an absolutely existential threat to our life as we know it. If we get past the 2-degree point of global warming, then we're into the situation the scientists tell us of runaway climate change, where it's just going to get hotter and hotter, more and more unstable. The crops that we rely on the sort of temperature ranges that we've got now. Sea level rises. I've just been reading a report from the local Green Party about the South Shields seafront area that people are very proud of locally. A lot of really good work's been done, work to make it great for people and for the natural environment. A 60 centimetre sea level rise, which could easily happen by the end of the century, really puts all of that under extreme threat. And that's just a local example of how the whole of the problems we're facing. And the oceans, it's not just the issue of the rise in levels, it's also the issue of rising acidity, which affects the abilities of corals, all of the miniature life in the oceans to build their skeletons, to build their lives. Our whole ecosystems are really on the edge. We've warmed by 1 degree already since the start of the Industrial Revolution. We've got to stop before 2 degrees.
Yeah. And how will it affect people in Britain in particular?
Okay, well, I think the thing is that in Britain, we've got a relatively mild climate, but we've already seen examples of extreme heat waves. And the evidence is the scientists tell us those will become more and more common. And we don't have the buildings, the facilities to cool people down for people who are older, frail, at risk from heat waves, more extreme weather, more extreme storms. We saw the floods in Somerset in particular a couple of years ago. If we have stronger rainfall, more concentrated rainfall, that's going to have massive effects on the whole environment. But I think it's also really worth focusing on the fact that there's huge opportunities behind this as well, because our coal-fired power stations, government has made one right decision on the environment, has decided that they'll shut down by 2025. We could actually do that quicker, but that's the right step. But we need to replace those, and what we can do with that is renewable energy, solar, onshore and offshore wind, tidal, really exciting possibilities to develop British technology. So the fact is we've got a way of life, a society, an economy that's really not working for the common good now. So many people are struggling to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head. And in tackling climate change, what we can do is also tackle all those other issues.
Yeah, so what type of things would you like to introduce to Britain or enforce in regards to renewable energy?
Well, what we want to do is basically encourage the technology that's been coming on in leaps and bounds. If you think about solar, for example, by 2020, they say that solar is expected to be about the same price as gas-fired, the cheapest power. And in fact, already in some parts of the world, solar and onshore wind are actually already at the same price or lower price than gas. And that comes from Bloomberg New Energy. So they're looking at the figures. So we've got real possibilities for every new house to be warm, comfortable, affordable to heat. So insulated, solar panels on the roof, retrofit existing homes to make sure they're warm and comfortable. Renewable energy. Each village or town might decide how do we want to generate our energy. Cities might decide to set up their own energy generating companies, set up solar farms, wind farms, and really rebuild our economy rather than having energy based on the big 6 energy companies, multinational company profits that often swoosh off into the nearest tax haven. Instead, what we can do is bring those profits back into communities, see money going round and round in the communities.
And would you like to just kind of stress why it's so important that people start taking steps towards improving it all now, rather than waiting and nothing being done?
Well, we need to act fast, because the reality is each year the carbon is mounting up in the atmosphere. We're getting closer and closer to that level of 2 degrees. And if we act sooner, then we actually don't see that cumulative effect. So the sooner we can act, the better. And of course, that's also the sooner in terms of opportunities, things like the tidal lagoon energy project off Swansea Bay, that we can actually use to develop a whole new industry. The first one of these is supposed to be 70% British content, a whole new turbine factory in the Midlands, real possibilities for designers, engineers, something we can export around the world.
And so what things can people in their own homes on a day-to-day basis do to help?
Well, in terms of the Green Party, we're in politics because we want to change the system. It's no good telling people, oh, you should use public transport, if there's no affordable, reliable, convenient public transport that runs when and where people want it. So we need to provide that transport, make sure it's affordable, reliable, convenient. In terms of things like, if you want to cut your energy bills, which most people would like to do, if you don't have a well-insulated home, if you've got problems with drafts through your home, then you simply can't do it. You're going to keep using the energy. So really what we need is change at a structural kind of level. Individual action is great. Whatever you can choose to do as an individual will help. But what we need to do is change the whole system, change the way things work. And what we'll do by doing that is actually make life better at the same time.